Good morning. Welcome to Spiritual Insights for Everyday Life. This is Lee Woofenden. Today I'd like to talk to you about a rather difficult subject, and that is the subject of suicide. And I'm titling this The Spiritual Side of Suicide because I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not the person to come to if you're in immediate danger of committing suicide. For that, you should reach out to somebody who cares about you or check yourself into the hospital, get the help that you need. But today what I'm going to offer is a few thoughts from some recent articles that we've posted that will perhaps give you a wider perspective on what's going on with suicide and perhaps how you can help yourself long term and let others help you as well. So I'd like to start out with what's often the elephant in the room for people who are on the spiritual side of things, and that is, if you commit suicide, does that mean you're a sinner and you're going to go to hell? And the answer to that is no. No one action is going to cause you to go to hell after you die. Only the character you built up over your lifetime here on earth is going to determine that, or in very simple terms, what's in your heart. If your heart is good, then you will be going to heaven, even if you take the desperate step of committing suicide. I will tell you that it's not going to be easy on the other side either. You're still going to have to deal with all the problems that led you to commit suicide in the first place. However, you will be able to resolve them there, and again, if your heart is good, you will find your way to heaven and not to hell. And the reality is that all of us here on earth are facing a life or death decision. People who have suicidal thoughts are facing that in a literal, physical way, but all of us are here on earth to make the big decision between life and death. And by that, I mean spiritual life and death. Because if we choose a life of love for our fellow human beings, love for God and service and care and mutual respect and service, then we are choosing a life of path of spiritual life. But if we choose a life of being wrapped up in ourselves, of going for our own power and money and possessions and pleasure, then we are choosing a path of spiritual death, which is otherwise known as hell. So suicide is really just one particular version of the choice that every one of us has to make. Suicide is a particular stark and external version of it that has to do with our physical life, but we are all facing a choice between life and death here on this earth. And so for those who are thinking of or desiring to commit suicide, you're not weird, you're not unusual. It's just part of that whole tapestry of human life here on earth, part of that whole struggle that is between life and death. And in your particular case, it just happens to come down to a very physical level. So don't you think of yourself as someone who's kind of out there. You're part of the stream of human life. And if you can tap into the stream of human life and the struggles that we all face, then perhaps you can get the help you need and make the choices you need to make in order to turn your life in a direction that goes toward life and not toward death. Another subject that I'd like to cover here, and we're not going to cover every subject that is in the 2 posts from our blog that I'll link, but another one I want to talk about is, where do these suicidal thoughts come from? Where do these suicidal drives come from? We linked in one of them to a recent post by a man who almost committed suicide but stepped back from it at the last minute, and he said that his life is fine. He has a good job, he has a loving wife, he has a family. By external metrics, there should not be a reason for him to feel so suicidal. There were some things in his past, and yet his present life is a very good one. However, he just finds himself spiraling closer and closer to killing himself. Now, in popular spiritual life these days, it's very common and popular to think that there are guardian angels who are with us. And people love the idea of having angels with us, helping us and protecting us and giving us strength. But the flip side that's not so popular is that there are also evil spirits with us who are trying to drag us down, who are attacking us and trying to destroy us. And this, not to put too fine a point on it, is where these suicidal thoughts come from. They actually don't come from our own mind. They come from these evil spirits who are sort of the counterbalance to the angels. There's the old thing of having the angel on the right shoulder and the the devil on the left shoulder, well, that's maybe sort of a silly illustration, but it's actually true that we live in between these two spiritual forces. We have angels on one side pulling us toward the good, and we have evil spirits on the other side pulling us toward the bad. And the evil spirits are the ones who are feeding us all this irrational stuff, saying that it would be better, for example, that my family would be better off without me. Well, that is never true. They would never want to have the money, and in fact, what happens when somebody kills themselves is it commonly puts the rest of the family and friends into a downward spiral themselves. But this lie that's being told by these evil spirits is they'd be better off without me. Well, it's not true, and it's not your own idea. It's an outside attack. And if you can understand that, then you can begin to separate that from yourselves and realize, no, I'm under attack, and I need to resist that, and I need to use what weapons I have at my disposal to fight against it. And the angels, of course, are ready to help, but here on earth, most of us are not aware of the angels that are with us or of the evil spirits. That's why we think that it comes just from ourselves, when in fact it comes from the spiritual world. But we do have people around us who care about us and who can help us. And the first step is to tell someone about your feelings and tell somebody that you're thinking of killing yourself. And if you check yourself into the hospital, tell them that you're not only thinking about it, but you have a specific plan, because that will tell them that you seriously are at risk. And get the help you need, get stabilized, and then you can begin taking the steps that you need to move yourself to a better place. Because there is a pathway to a better place, there is a pathway to spiritual health and wholeness, and there is a pathway to having a good and fulfilling life. It's not going to be easy, it's going to take a lot of work, you're going to have to deal with any old issues and situations in your life and traumas and pain, and we don't like to do that. We want to avoid dealing with all that, but it must be brought up and dealt with. And beyond that, we must come up with a positive purpose for our life that has to do with making the world better for other people, not just our own betterment, although that's important, but having a purpose in life in which we are devoting ourselves to making life better for other people. This helps to get a suicidal person, or anyone really, outside of themselves, because being suicidal is very much being wrapped up in your own pain and suffering and despair. And if we can move our life toward focusing on other people and their happiness and well-being, then this gets us out of this inward spiral toward death that we sometimes get caught up in. So these are a few thoughts I'd like to offer to you, and I will link a couple of articles in the description of this video that go into it in somewhat more detail. And I hope this will be helpful to you if either you yourself or someone you know is thinking of committing suicide. There is a way to understand this, and there is a pathway toward a better life. So I hope this is helpful to you, and I wish you Godspeed on your spiritual journey.